welcome to this news hour on Equinoxe television. I am Babla Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, from the 86th position in the Global Peace Index classification 2014, Cameroon has moved several steps backward to the 145th position in 2021, and this backward move is accelerated by the close to 5-year-long armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and Cameroon is now among the 6 most violent African nation. And also in this newscast, we'll talk about the violation of the rights of children. A case in point in this newscast: a 17-year-old young girl tortured with sharp objects, iron objects, hot water, pepper put in her eyes. Here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, and out of the country, the international community continues mounting pressure on the military in Sudan for a return to constitutional order after the military toppled the transitional government in a coup d'etat. An Amnesty International World Food Program urging the international community to step up and provide relief to at least 1 million people at the brink of famine in Madagascar. Through their top stories. Cameroon's position on the Global Peace Index classification has been worsening over the years. The country has been moving backward since 2014, when it occupied the 86th position in the Global Peace Classification Index, and today the country is at the 145th position, and this backward move is being attributed to the close to 5-year-long armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon, where gross human rights violations and abuse are recorded almost on daily basis, and Cameroon is now among the 6 most violent African nations. Details with Bostella in Bamenda.
The most recent conflict in Cameroon began in 2016 with peaceful demonstrators across Anglophone Cameroon calling for the respect of the judicial and linguistic identities of the people of the northwest and southwest regions. The peaceful march quickly gave way to violence, resulting to more than 3 million people, majority of them women and children, plunged into economic hardship. 5 years into the armed conflict, many are struggling to recover in the midst of violent confrontations between the warring parties.
For this while that the crisis is ongoing, I haven't been able to pay my shirt, so I had to close my shop. I work from home. I mark traditional dresses, and I no longer have customers because most of my customers are internally displaced. Paying even the house rent where we live is a problem.
Youth in Bamenda opined that an inclusive economic recovery will require a combination of short and long-term solutions to address specific challenges of young persons, they who form the greater portion of Cameroon's population and are actively involved in the armed conflict.
If you go to different communities, you see only young girls, teenagers that get pregnant. Only young people are also involved in drug addiction and other social mishaps that are destroying their future. As young persons, we know that there are a lot of things that we can do. They should involve us in policy making. Any policy, we should be involved in policy making. Through this, we know the plight of young persons because we are all young.
To ease the recovery process, the United Nations Development Programme, through its partners, supported some young persons from across the northwest region with economic kits.
We will not want to only come and preach and talk and go. We want people to have a reflection. We want people to have enjoyment. We want people to enjoy, to have a different way of life, to use culture, art and culture to promote peace building, because peace building is a mainstream activity.
As part of activities to mark the 2021 International Day for Peace, some youths from across the northwest region showcased their talents in cookery and fashion parade. These talents, if not properly preserved, may be buried by the armed conflict.
And Cameroon's position on the Global Peace Index classification is also deteriorating because of the increasing violation of the rights of children in the country. Violations and abuse are on the rise. And talking about the abuse of children's rights in the Republic of Cameroon, a case in point in this newscast is that of a 17-year-old young girl who has been suffering torture with sharp and iron dangerous objects, including of course machetes and of course other things like hot water and pepper constantly being put in her eyes, sometimes for the least mistake. And Equinoxe Television went finding out what's been happening. Innocent as a report.
Degree wounds incurred by 17-year-old Sonita on October 23rd, 2021 in the home of her guardian. Hot water was poured on her after snake beatings. Her life was saved at the Cité de Palmier District Hospital in Douala. She recounts she delayed to steep clothes in water when she was asked to by her guardian, who sent one of her children to bring hot water. Hot water she poured on her body. Her guardian falsely accuses her of touching her rubbing oil. She will place hot iron on her back and at times beats her with a machete. Visiting the torture home, the accused daughter tells us it was simply an accident and that Sonita is treated equally like other children in the house. Neighbors deny this, affirming Sonita is constantly beaten in the said home. They have intervened several times, but the act repeats itself. She refused suggestions from neighbors to better return Sonita to her biological parents. Sonita has always approached me in tears. She revealed her guardian beats her and puts pepper in her eyes. She had also approached me with burns on her back, saying the woman placed hot iron rods on her back. Despite the pains, she is always assigned to her task, while the woman's children idle. Tired of the torture meted on the 17-year-old Sonita, inhabitants of the Peka District neighborhood mobilized for her rescue. We openly condemned the woman's action right in front of her, and after we took Sonita to the hospital for treatment. It is good to know that the wickedness we met on others shall come back to us. Sonita did not only suffer physical torture but malnutrition as well. A complaint has been filed against her torturer at the Peka Deset police station that is being examined.
And just like violations and abuse of human rights, other issues that are tarnishing the image of Cameroon on the international scene concerns illegal activities, illegal business. And one of those business activities going on, prospering, despite the efforts of administrative authorities to stop that activity, is the transportation and sale of illegal fuel in the country. Charles Ekome reports.
Control officers from the Ministry of Water and Energy in charge of ensuring the quality of petroleum products are currently in Douala, economic capital of Cameroon. For 2 days now, they have swept through every nook and cranny of the city with the aim of putting an end to the sale and trafficking of adulterated fuel. Pusop Nasser, a control officer from the ministry, says the Minister of Water and Energy has ordered the immediate seizure of contraband petroleum products in the city.
Le ministre a ordonné une opération coup de poing.
The minister has ordered an operation centered in the city of Douala because he has realized that contraband petroleum products are rapidly getting into the city from towns like Limbe and Susa.
It se dispatche dans la ville de Douala et Susa.
Several makeshift structures made from the sale and stocking of these contraband petroleum products were found and dismantled in every periphery of the city.
On a pris 2 véhicules chargés de cargaison.
We have already intercepted 2 vehicles loaded with gallons of adulterated fuel, estimated at 7,000 liters. This fuel was on its way to Douala, but has now been seized thanks to our vigilance. The Minister of Water and Energy also wants us to carry out mobile operations, which consist of controlling major roads and highways every day and night, at least 4 days a week, in order to lay hands on those trafficking this illicit fuel.
Attaquer les récidivistes.
The contraband products, which have been seized by control officers so far, are expected to be taken to special laboratories in the days ahead for scientific analysis, an exercise which will be conducted by elements of the National Gendarmerie.
About 55 cars circulating in the town of Douala without identification documents have been impounded. The cars were seized during an operation led by the divisional officer of the Douala 4 subdivision. Manjika and Gabriel reports.
We are outside to control vehicles. In fact, to confront.
It was a surprise operation that was made by the divisional officer of Douala 4 subdivision, with the main objective to stop urban disorder, clandestine transportation of people, and to control those who have failed this far to pay their taxes. As a result of the move by the divisional officer of Douala 4 and his team, some vehicle owners without identification documents were surprised by the control, forcing most of their passengers to abandon the vehicle after they were caught. We have just been caught here. They say it's because we are operating clandestinely. The team says they will be taking our car to the garage.
When we pay some man, I don't know if he... In short, I don't know nothing about
The exercise, which has just been launched, will become a routine activity in the Douala 4 subdivision, which has been noted for its haphazard style of loading and offloading either passengers or goods.
Very soon we will receive a lot of people coming for the next competition, CAN. So we are out to fight again overload, urban disorder, immatriculation certificates, lack of way bill, driving license, single sticker. All those are linked to tax misconduct.
The divisional officer says the move is also to decongest the road ahead of the African Nations Cup, which Douala will be serving as a host town, and it is a gateway to Fako division of the Southwest region, which is another venue for the Nations Cup. At the launch of this campaign, 55 cars were caught by the control team. Within the 55, 25 vehicles had their documents partially, while 30 have been illegally doing clandestine transportation.
And Tradi practitioners in the Republic of Cameroon expressed concerns over government's attitude towards them. They are decrying the fact that government has not recognized and is not helping them within the framework of the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. And they were speaking here in Cameroon's economic capital during a conclave. Immaculate Fogwe has more.
Balancing modern traditional medicine and vaccines in the fight against COVID-19 is preoccupying tradi practitioners, researchers, professors and medical doctors in the city of Douala. Though some herbal medicines like that of Monsignor Clades Adzak and Lexi-COVID have been able to stand out tall in the treatment of the virus, health experts, however, warn against the proliferation of charlatans in the field.
We know that conventional medicine fails to treat people. Now in Africa, in Cameroon, we have to develop our traditional medicine. But this traditional medicine needs to be clearly defined, because many people come in this activity just to make money and not to treat people.
In the course of a press conference, Professor Aimé Boni encourages Cameroonians to get themselves vaccinated.
Le vaccin prévient.
Vaccines prevent, while effective herbal medicines heals. Vaccinated persons are, however, not fully protected from the virus because they can still get infected with COVID-19, but I, however, implore Cameroonians to get themselves vaccinated.
Vacciner, c'est utile.
Tradi practitioners are urging the government to carry out thorough investigation in their quest of choosing the most effective herbal treatment.
The conference calls our Minister of Health to take appropriate measures to approve just drugs which prove their efficacy, not just the political decision, but scientific decision.
This conference is taking place at a time when 7,000 new cases and 169 COVID-19 related deaths were registered within the month of October in Cameroon.
The African Union has suspended Sudan from the bloc over the unconstitutional seizure of power, and the World Bank has suspended its aid to Sudan after the military there staged a coup against the civilian government. Political leaders were arrested on Monday, sparking nationwide protests and international condemnation. Sudan's civilian and military leaders had been in a fragile power-sharing agreement for the past 2 years. The U.S. has also frozen a $700 million aid to Sudan, and these moves of the AU, the World Bank, and the United States of America put further pressure on the coup's leader, General Abdel Fattah Burhan, to reinstate the civilian government. Amnesty International urges the international community to step up and provide humanitarian relief to people affected by a devastating drought in Madagascar. It said 1 million people are on the brink of famine. Amnesty's Secretary General Agnes Kalamat said the international community must immediately provide the people in Madagascar affected by the drought with increased humanitarian relief and additional funding for the losses and damages suffered. Amnesty International said the drought is the worst in 4 decades, adding that there should be urgent action against climate change. And Amnesty International and the World Food Programme are urging the international community to take action now. That's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Thanks for staying with us in Talking Points. Our guest today, Dr. Muvala Marcel, is a tradi medical practitioner. Doctor, you're welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mr. Babila, Jonathan, and thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to be part of the program here this evening.
All right, we're talking about the involvement of traditional medicine, African traditional medicine, in the fight against coronavirus. And tradi practitioners think that government is not supporting them. Government is not helping them in the fight. Many of them have come up with different treatments for coronavirus, but till date only 2, that of leader and another medical practitioner or tradi practitioner, have been confirmed by the Ministry of Public Health till now.
Yes, Mr. Babila, I think this is something that is not just coming up today. The traditional practitioners actually been worried. There was a time also that they felt like traditional medicine was not actually recognized in the fight against COVID, despite the place that traditional medicine actually play as far as the fight against COVID-19 is concerned. But I want to think that like we discussed earlier, in our subsequent program, we will still think that it's better that we inform the traditional practitioner that yes, it is true that they might feel that the government is not actually seeing into their practice, but I don't think so, because like we said, traditional medicine is actually a very nice and beautiful practice here in Cameroon because it is the only alternative to pharmaceutical drugs. But the issue here is that there are many traditional practitioners that are not known by the government. It's difficult to support or to promote what you don't know. And then the few traditional doctors that has actually come to the level of the ministry, they have had their work recognized, that had their work looked into, scientific investigation made, like the work of his eminent Samuel Kleda. I think that he went that far, and then the drug was known at that level. That is why more research was done on his work, and his work was approved.
But as of now, there are many tradi practitioners who are coming up with different treatments for coronavirus, particularly in the case of the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. But they are saying that government is not helping them by not recognizing what they are doing. Then government is not helping them.
Yes, like I said earlier, it might be a bit difficult for government to help, but I think that since we have recognized traditional medicine and the place of traditional medicine in our healthcare, it is the duty of the government to go into the society and then get in contact with the traditional practitioner. Because the problem here, the initial problem is that the government is not actually in contact with the traditional practitioner. If we have a system like I said, and then we have a renowned association where this traditional practitioner can come together and present their work, then the government can come in, because the authority is in the hand of the government. It is true, as the traditional practitioners are saying, because we have many traditional practitioners that has actually come up with something very great for the COVID-19. I myself, I treated so many patients both home and abroad, but at the level of the ministry or in the face of the government, I don't think that they know anything about the work. And this is why we are saying, and now we have many patients coming to the traditional practitioner and going home successfully treated, but this work is not known at the level of the ministry. So it is still the duty of the government to come in. And then one thing that the government is supposed to understand here is that traditional medicine is not like pharmaceutical drugs. What I'm trying to say here is that there is biodiversity in traditional medicine, but when we want to talk about chemodiversity, it is quite difficult, because the paracetamol that we are using here is the same paracetamol that can be used in Yaoundé, it's the same paracetamol that can be used out of the country. But with traditional medicine, all traditional doctors have their own protocol and the way they manage their patient. And looking in line with the COVID-19, with the different signs and symptoms, many traditional doctors were able to address this condition, considering the different signs and symptoms, and addressing the different signs and symptoms. It was very easy for the traditional practitioner to handle their patients.
Another issue here is the problem of those referred to as impostors, who seem to be invading the traditional medicine practice in Cameroon.
Yes, it is very obvious. We know in our community nowadays, there are, with the unemployment and financial crisis, people are looking for a way to make life better, and traditional medicine look to be the very easy means for many who are jobless and helpless. Because if you go, like for instance, go to places like Marché Central and so on, you see herbs are displayed like granite, and they are sold to patients and so on. I think that system is not correct. And even in Douala here, you have traditional doctors spread all over the town, and then their work is just in a funny way. I think that it is the duty of the government. The Cameroon government is supposed to go into the community, give a particular protocol that can guide the traditional practitioner, and then try to see if those who are practicing traditional medicine are actually competent. And if they are charlatans, the only way that they can rule out those who are not practicing this important and very holistic aspect of healthcare is to set regularity that will be controlled, maybe if it is monthly or half yearly, so that all those who are not practicing it correctly can be removed from the fee.
And government has been trying to do this with the sale of drugs on roadside, but that is continuing and even prospering. When you go to Marché Central here in Douala, around the Douala Central Market, they are there everywhere around the streets. And how is that going to be possible with the traditional practitioners who are not even practicing in public, who are practicing in their homes, in their quarters, in their villages? When government is unable to fight these people who are selling in public, how should it go about fighting the impostors in the medical traditional practitioners, among the traditional practitioners?
This is actually a difficult task, as you rightly say. But if you look at that, for instance, those who are selling pharmaceutical drugs and they are selling in public, it is true that we get some of them in the public, but you still have some of the sellers of pharmaceutical drugs that are hidden somewhere in the quarters, and they are only known by those who they handle. Now the issue is this: Anybody that is acting with fear can never act well. It means that when regularity are set in and the traditional practitioners, they know that, okay, this is what the government says that we should do and this is what is not supposed to be practiced. That will also open the mind of the patients. It therefore implies that the patient that is going to see a charlatan is well prepared. The person understands that, no, this is how this practice is supposed to look like, and if this person is not following the norms, the rules and regulation of the government, then my going there to see this person is putting my own self at a risk. Now, but when the system is not set like that, people are practicing and everybody is doing anything at his or her own convenience, it will be difficult for the government to really know who is practicing where and who is a charlatan.
Thank you, Dr. Muvara Marcel, Tradi medical practitioner. Thank you for your time. That's it for today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Coming up next, live from Cameroon's political capital, La Presse. It's a dispute, and after that, Equinoxe. Stay with us.